Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking a truly fascinating journey to look at the real nature of science and the rather dark shadow that's often cast right over it, pseudoscience. We are going to step-by-step explore this epic, ongoing battle between the bright light of genuine scientific inquiry and the really dangerous shadows created by fake science. So stick with me here, because what we uncover today might completely shift how you look at the world around you.
But before we really get going, let's just ground ourselves with a pretty wild fact. Technology is, at its core, just the practical application of science, right? It's taking purest scientific knowledge and mechanizing it. And if you look back at human history, this is literally one of our greatest success stories. If you rewind the clock to primitive eras, way before modern tech, the average human lifespan was a mere 20 to 30 years. But once we actually started understanding nature and transforming that raw knowledge into technology, our life expectancy miraculously doubled. We're talking 70 to 80 years today, and often much more. That right there, that is the incredible power of real science.
Now, every superpower has a dark side. There is a massive chasm between genuine, tested technology and the fake stuff that just completely ignores the rules. On one hand, you have safe technologies with incredibly strict regulations protecting us, like smartphones that are rigorously tested to stay under strict limits, like the 2.00 watts per kilogram SAR radiation cap. But then on the flip side, you have counterfeit technology, and its only goal? Corporate profit. It completely throws the rulebook out the window. These knockoff devices cause direct physical harm by emitting totally uncontrolled radiation or by creating massive electrical hazards. I mean, would you really risk a house fire just because a counterfeit charger was a few bucks cheaper? Probably not.
So here is our roadmap for today. 1. Science, technology, and fakes. 2. What is pseudoscience? 3. Popular pseudoscience examples. 4. The harms of pseudoscience. And finally, 5. The true purpose of science. Let's get to it.
Starting off with Section 1, Science, Technology, and Fakes. Moving right along to Section 2, what exactly is pseudoscience?
So here's a really profound question I want us all to chew on for a second. If the fake technology we just talked about poses a literal physical threat in our pockets, what happens when our very mechanism for finding the truth, science itself, is counterfeited? Is the danger just physical, or is it messing with our minds too? Pseudoscience basically borrows the outfit of real science. It creates a hypothesis using what looks like the scientific method. But, and this is the kicker, when experiments and data fail to support that hypothesis or even prove the exact opposite, it stubbornly ignores the evidence. It cherry picks. It accepts what's convenient and entirely rejects what isn't. And why? Usually just to maintain this alluring sense of mystery, or worse, so someone can build a lucrative career off of unproven beliefs.
The legendary Carl Sagan hit the nail on the head with this one. He perfectly highlights the bizarre cognitive dissonance we all kind of create in our own brains. Think about it. We fly thousands of feet in the air, placing our absolute, blind trust in the scientific laws of aerodynamics. When we get a deadly infection, we immediately take refuge in antibiotics. But then, when it comes to predicting our personalities or figuring out the age of the universe, suddenly we're ready to throw all that rigorous methodology right in the trash and believe that giant rocks floating in space somehow dictate if we're friendly or not. Human psychology is just wild, isn't it? Which brings us nicely to Section 3, Popular Pseudoscience Examples.
Let's objectively break down a few of the most popular claims out there and compare them to scientific reality. You'll see exactly how they failed the most basic tests. First up, astrology. The hypothesis is that systematic movements of planets affect human psychology. The reality? Decades of experiments have found literally zero evidence for this. Then you have homeopathy, which claims that insanely extreme dilution of a substance will cure you. But clinical trials prove it's basically just fake alternative medicine. Then there's hajama, or wet cupping, vacuuming blood for health. It completely lacks experimental backing and actually carries massive infection risks. And telekinesis? It hides behind all this scientific-sounding jargon, but the second you put it to a real test under observation, it fails completely. Ultimately, these are all just failed hypotheses.
Let's look closer at telekinesis for a second. The claim is that you can move objects with quote-unquote energy particles emitted by the eye. Sounds super scientific, right? Well, the famous illusionist James Randi famously put up a $1 million prize, $1 million to anyone who could prove their supernatural ability under basic scientific testing. Care to guess the result? Over 400 people tried. 400! And not a single one could pass even the most fundamental observation tests. That $1 million just sat there unclaimed simply because there was no testable reality behind the magic trick.
And just like that dangerous counterfeit phone charger we talked about earlier puts your house at risk, relying on pseudoscientific medicine is just as dangerous. Trusting extremely diluted water in homeopathy or unsterile bloodletting in Hamacot instead of heavily regulated medical science, that carries massive physical risks. These aren't just quirky alternatives. They can lead to irreversible, life-altering disasters like hepatitis, HIV, or severe anemia.
Arthur Conan Doyle, the brilliant mind behind Sherlock Holmes, explained this phenomenon beautifully. He understood exactly why the human brain is so susceptible to pseudoscience. Our brains are a bit lazy. We love what is comfortable, easy, and profitable. If we start believing a theory before we actually have the data, our subconscious naturally starts to twist the facts. We end up molding the data to fit the neat little narrative we've already invented. And that is exactly what the proponents of pseudoscience do. They fabricate data that doesn't exist and sweep contradicting realities right under the rug.
Let's look at the real-world impact in Section 4, the harms of pseudoscience.
Because look, the crucial point here is that pseudoscience is not just some harmless hobby. It's not just innocently reading your horoscope over your morning coffee. The real-world toll of this stuff is brutal, and it boils down to three main consequences. First, it completely clouds our minds, disconnecting us from evidence-based, objective reality. Second, it literally drains people's wallets. Phony treatments and merchants of hope cause massive, entirely unnecessary financial ruin. And third, arguably the most devastating, it preys on desperate patients who are just looking for a cure. It brutally endangers their health and shatters their hopes of actual recovery. This isn't a joke, it's an active threat to society.
Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 5, the true purpose of science.
After looking at such a dark picture, let's raise the energy a bit and shift to a much more inspiring conclusion. If fake science is so destructive, what is the actual, pure purpose of the science we're trying so hard to protect? Friedrich von Schiller has this amazing metaphor that sums it up perfectly. To scammers and pseudoscientists, science is nothing but a cow. Their only goal is to milk it for all the money and fame they can get. But to true scientists, science is a majestic, noble pursuit. It's an almost sacred search for truth that deserves our utmost respect.
Because the real goal of science isn't doing cheap parlor tricks. It's not moving pencils with your mind. And it's certainly not predicting how your boss is going to treat you next Tuesday by tracking the orbit of Saturn. The true goal of science is infinitely more profound. Why are we here? How exactly do stars burn for billions of years? How do tiny invisible atoms somehow come together to form a living, breathing human? What are the fundamental rules of this crazy universe? Science is the relentless pursuit of honest, verifiable answers to our deepest sense of wonder.
I want to crown our discussion today with these incredible words from Carl Sagan. Look, we are thinking beings. The main thing that separates us from every other creature is our intellect. Science is the tool that allows us to use that immense intellectual capacity to actually solve the authentic, mind-blowing mysteries of the cosmos. The pure thrill of uncovering a new truth, finding a new piece of evidence, or unlocking a secret of the universe, that is literally the greatest joy the human mind can achieve. And it's tragic that pseudoscience tries to overshadow that beautiful intellectual feast with cheap, profitable lies.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a rather provocative question to ponder. As you navigate the endless claims you hear in your daily life, are you going to accept science merely as a tool for personal gain and comfort? Or will you defend it as a profound, illuminating light that helps us actually understand our universe? Remember, choosing the beautiful, complex truth over fake, easy comforts is perhaps humanity's most noble duty. Thanks for seeking the truth with us today. Stay curious and always stay with science.